Consumption, written by Alita Silva and read by Paul Navarro. It was easy to get what you wanted. You started choosing in the waiting room with your wife or your husband or with your friends over the net. The brochure was thick with heavy cardstock paper, though medium in size. One held the open book over your lap and gazed through the pages, running your finger down each body part, deciding and scrutinizing how it could all come together. The secretary up front had you fill out an intake form and gave you the order form. The order form, or as it had commonly become known, the OF, was a form on the systems for reproduction that streamlined the process of choosing a baby. You had to go through several blood tests where most of your fingers were pinpricked to present a different facet of you and your spouse. Things were found out that one never had reason to know, like your ancestral migration patterns for the last several thousand years, or a 10-page list of your recessive genes, things that might have distinguished you, but didn't, simply because of poor selection. You also found out your child's likelihood of contracting a particular form of cancer, or more recently, their IQ. The Times had reported that although we could not yet manipulate the child's inherent IQ, that perhaps certainly knowing had significant implications for the future. They followed that with a study from the Chicago School of Economics on the correlation between high IQ scores and financial wealth and stability. Needless to say, that those were the children we wanted. We could finally really begin coding and genetically engineering the DNA of those not born. It was simply the next step in the history of human evolution. What Lorraine didn't know yet, as she sat in the waiting room with her wife, Christina, perusing the heavy pages of the brochure, was that everything came at a price. The doctors had long learned never to print prices anywhere before the parents to be had had their hearts set out on a model. It was simple marketing. Let the consumer buy with her heart, then tell them how much it'll cost their wallets. Lorraine began clicking off the features she wanted her baby to have. Light green eyes, long brown lashes, boy, bone straight hair, auburn hair, peak height 5 feet 11 inches, peak metabolic weight 170 pounds, slightly upturned nose, and so on and so on. She felt lucky to have Christina as a partner because they were in agreement about mostly everything. The differences in opinion were minute, though they had heard from some of their friends that some couples found the entire process reason enough to split. Not everyone got to complete the OF. Soon, the couple was ushered into Dr. Ramalah's office, a big room reminiscent of a spa. The walls and furniture were white and modern, with domestic paintings of parents and their children on the wall. Dr. Ramallah was also careful to hang multiple degrees, decreeing him worthy of such a task. He knew what his clients wanted and was unhesitant to give it to them. Your OF is pretty detailed. Did you have any concerns or questions before we begin? He sat across the women, the barren table in between them. Some of our friends have gone through this, Lorraine started, and they cautioned me to ask about the wholesomeness of the model. I want the different pieces to fit perfectly. I don't want the coating to cause his body to look unnatural. Oh, Dr. Ramallah smiled. No, there's no way. That won't happen. And Miss Thomas, dare I say, this entire process is natural. We're not making babies out of air on a petri dish while inserting diluted product. This is not what this is. He looks at them from above his spectacles. The corners of his mouth turn ever so slightly. We take the best that your genes have to offer and promote them to take dominance in the reproductive process. If I may say so, we nudge your own genes to allow nothing but the best to surface in the model we create. For example, he pulls up the OF on the screen pad in his hand. For example, you checked light green eyes and bone straight hair. We wouldn't have been able to nudge your genes to seek out such coding if neither of the carriers had such coding at all. The only reason why we can is because you can. You can see, Miss Thomas, the only thing unnatural here would be allowing your body to create permutations of diseases and coding that would disadvantage your offspring and give them such a disadvantageous start to life that I'd call it criminal. He pauses and looks at them again. I'm sure you've read the Times article? The women nod. Your genes puts this model in the 60th percentile. He continues. 60th percentile? That's it? He doesn't say anything, but instead chooses to raise his brows as if saying, these are your genes, not mine. Yes, that's not as bad as it sounds. We read the article, and it breaks down the social economic potentialities for maximum success, and they start with IQs in the 85th percentile. It doesn't make sense that between Christina and me, the highest it can go is 60th percentile. I don't make the genes, yet. I work with what we have. The women look at each other, eyes soft with the threat of unspilled tears. Well, there is one possibility, but. What is it? Lorraine perks up. You could introduce a third gene. A third gene? Yes. He pulls up a folder on his screen pad and hands the device to the women. A third carrier would not only diversify the coding for your model, but increase its IQ to at least the 85th percentile, maybe even the 90th. 90th? Christina leans forward and grabs the edges of the crisp white desk. Lorraine flips through a conglomeration of images of several carriers men, women, children. In their images, the potential is widened. If we introduce a third carrier, she begins, could we switch to Blue Eyes? Lorraine! Christina jolts. Yes, of course. The possibilities are endless with a third carrier. No one in our family has blue eyes, Lorraine. Exactly. Lorraine smiles. Can you imagine bringing back a blue eyed black baby? Well, it'd be barely black at all, Christina shrieked. Exactly. I thought we had agreed already on how to code him. But we didn't know we could do this, that we could advance this far. I don't want a blue eyed baby, Lorraine. Didn't you read the Times article? I don't give a shit about the Times article. Dr. Ramallah reached over and retrieved his screen pad. We have millions of carriers from all over the world. You have so many options, and the Green Eyes, honestly, are making a comeback. Soon it was Lorraine who was leaning forward, her hands gripping the edge of the white table so hard that her black skin turned a dull yellow. But I only want one color. I can't do this, Christina gets up. Her floppy body threatens to leave the spacious office, though she is completely irresolute in her decision. She seems to be waiting for hands to hold her in and hands to soothe and caress her fears. Those hands don't come, but reach across the desk to snatch the screen pad with its millions of carriers and opportunities. I'm leaving, Lorraine, Christina sobs. Are you coming with me? Lorraine's eyes are firmly fixed on an image too far from Christina to see. It's the holidays all over again, and the screen light brightens up Lorraine's face like the floating billboards of New York City. It's called extermination, Christina spat across the room, venom clinging to her last word. Dr. Ramallah seems impassive. There is nothing he has not seen before. There is nothing he cannot sell. Lorraine turns to Dr. Ramallah and hands him the screen pad, an image clearly fixed upon the screen. That's the carrier I want. That's the right shade. The doctor smiles. Lorraine's gaze is transfixed on the screen across from her, as if bewitched. Christina's venom softens into sobs, punctuated by her heavy breathing. She storms out of the pristine office, as there is nothing else left to do. Do you know, the doctor starts, that the profile you've chosen can still be carried out with just you and this other choice carrier? We lose nothing by losing her. Lorraine nods. I know. What's the cost? This has been Consumption, written by Alita Silva and read by Paul Navarro. For more stories, check out shewritesiread.com. Thanks for listening.